Hi, Bill here with another edition of Metal Minutes. Today is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. Well, we've had a kind of an uneventful week for the metals. We have gold flat, down just a fraction to 1902. Silver's down 1% to 2786. Platinum's down 2% to 1168, and palladium's down 1% to 2840. For the 1 year mark, we have gold up 11%, silver up 59%, platinum up 40%, and palladium up 45%. So still a great 1 year time for all the metals. If you're trying to beat inflation, they've all exceeded that, some by quite a bit. So let's talk about what kinds of inflation are out there, because that's the headline story these days. And one thing that we do need to be aware of is that food inflation has been on the rise. And that will always impact our families and our loved ones. And there's something that's not being talked about a lot in the mainstream media, but it nevertheless is something to be aware of, and that's drought. There's a very serious drought conditions in the western United States and also across Europe. Europe, by some climate scientists, are claiming they're facing a 2,000-year drought. The conditions are such that it's rarely seen to that degree. So this is likely going to impact food prices in the months ahead. And so that's something to be aware of, including across the Middle East. The price inflation of food is nearing levels now that it was back in the Arab Spring riots, when food prices really jumped up there, and it created a lot of societal unrest across the Middle East, or was certainly a part of what was causing that. And so we may be facing those types of periods again coming up in the coming months. And that's where owning precious metals can help alleviate some of that stress. Now, certainly it's also a wise idea to have some emergency food stored up for yourself, your family. It's not like we need to live in a cave or something like that, but it doesn't hurt to have a few weeks worth of food supplies, just for those times when there might be a storm or there could be interruptions in the supply chain. It's just not a bad idea to do that. Precious metals is also a wise thing to do. And I've written about this in my book, The 7% Solution. But silver, food priced in paper dollars, inflation has been fairly rampant lately. But food priced in silver has been fairly steady since 300 AD. So, for example, bread or grains, what an ounce of silver would purchase in 300 AD, it will purchase about the same amount today. And so, to protect yourself from the ravages of price inflation in the medium to near term and of course in the long term, precious metals is a way that you can help protect yourself from not only food prices, but all types of prices that are going up. Store savings in metal can always be converted to whatever the latest fiat currency happens to be years down the road when you're ready to make those purchases. Remember, we also have the Basel III rules being implemented. Those are coming up soon. And it's been impacting gold prices for the last 2 years. It's been gradually moving them higher, and we're getting closer to the deadline for the implementation of those rules. And so we may see a ramped up effect as unallocated gold is removed as a valid asset class, and people have to use physical, or many of the banks do. Also, the silver squeeze movement has been impacting physical silver prices. And so that is something to keep in mind. We have a lot of good pressure that's being applied to lift precious metals, particularly gold and silver. in the coming years, versus we're at perhaps a peak time in the stock market and in many bond markets. About 20% of U.S. corporations are what we would call zombies. They don't have enough cash flow to service their debt. And so as all this free money and all this liquidity that's been pumped into the system, as it begins to be pulled back at some point, we might see some very difficult times in the stock and bond markets. So that's another reason to consider adding to your precious metals and storing some of your savings in physical metal. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.